What's up, everybody? March 21st edition of the Fightful MMA podcast. Yours truly, Joe Ferraro. Make sure you follow me online at Showdown Joe. Follow at Fightful MMA on social media as well, and FightfulMMA.com for all of your mixed martial arts news. If you're wondering why the screen is going back and forth, we have Elias Theodorou, and I know from the background he's in Montreal, likely training at TriStar. But ladies, on behalf of the Fightful MMA podcast, I do want to apologize. Our lovely Elias Theodorou, he may not be looking as pretty as usual. Maybe he does think he's pretty. What's up, brother?
Well, clearly chicks dig scars, so it's all going to work out in the end. No, I'm fantastic. Little bump, head clash, nothing more than a stitch or two, and it'll be fine in about a week.
Fine in about a week, and you're sipping away some brewskis, I see?
Yes, because it's not really about that. It was like this, the high and the low that I received. So basically, a couple projects that I'm working on, a couple events got set up, and I was just on cloud nine, driving from Toronto to Montreal, 6-hour drive. And then I literally got in yesterday, and I wanted to just do some cardio. And then a couple of guys from wrestling down there at the club that they train with or whatever, like, come on, do some technique. And then eventually we did some wrestling. And we my head, what's it called, basically just bumped into another. His stood the test, although I'm still complaining about it. But anyways, the point being, so I hit beds, and obviously I was bleeding, and I had to wait more time. So 6-hour drive, 3-hour wait time, 4-hour wait time in the hospital last night. And then this morning, I was like, hey, it's not going to be bad. It's whatever. I'm peeing, and I had my headphones on, whatever. And as I pull up my pants, my cell phone goes right into the washroom. Right into the washroom. Right in the toilet, rather. Right in the toilet. So it's been a rough 24 hours. So I'm drinking a beer, and all will be fine.
Okay, well, I could sympathize on two different ways. I don't know if I should say you and I are alike, or you're akin to my now 6-year-old son, who at one time was potty training. I'm going to go maybe 2 years old, 2.5 years old. And, he started liking the iPhone. And I started showing, I would have these ABC apps, and he would learn and he would sing along and blah, blah. And, while we're teaching him how to potty train, I said, okay, just have a seat here. Here's the phone. Take your time. You know what? When it has to come out, it'll come out. And I leave him alone in there. I come out of there. He's like, Daddy, Daddy, Daddy. I'm like, oh my God, he's done. Right? He's like, look. And he points inside the toilet, and he decided to see if the iPhone would float. Yes, I see you sipping away. And the second time, same thing. I was with him, and we were in a public washroom, and I was wearing I think you've seen my Sportsnet spring jacket. It's one of those fitted jackets that, kind of makes me look buff. So yeah, I'm going to wear it, and had my cell phone in my right-hand side, my iPhone, and just doing what I was doing. And next thing you know, I go to unzip it, thing flies up in the air. I miss it, right into the toilet. Brand new iPhone. Yeah, so been there, done that. I know exactly what it feels like. But that scar, brother, did you get stitches?
Yep, 2.
Oh, 2 stitches. So it's going to take, a couple weeks before they fall out, or do you have to have them removed?
No, they disintegrate. They'll absorb it. So it'll be a week, and then I'll be back on the mat trainer. So
there you go. You'll be fine.
I'll be fine. I'll just lift weights. But the only issue is, again, I've been eating clean too. Like, I'm like, in shape, and I'm like, you know what? If the right fight happens, let's jump in on this. Like 4 weeks, maybe still.
Well, that thing's got to heal up first, right? Because you don't want.
You're
going to get hit in a fight. You're going to get hit. That's the last thing you need, right?
Maybe. There's been a couple of them where it's funny that I've been injured more outside of the cage than inside.
Story of my life.
Knock on wood.
That's the old Renzo Gracie adage. People don't know that. People used to laugh at Lyoto Machida when he used to compete. I remember doing a seminar with Renzo Gracie. At the time, it was called the Grappling Arts Academy in Woodbridge, Ontario. I'm going to say late 90s, maybe 97, 98. We were all glossy-eyed. It's Renzo Gracie. I think I was a white belt, maybe a blue belt at the time. Yeah. And, we got to sit around with Renzo afterwards, who I know very, very well now. We've seen each other around the world numerous times. But one of the questions that was asked was striking in MMA and how we're doing jiu-jitsu and what about striking. And his adage was simple. And it's a Damian Maia adage right now. He basically said, the only person that can punch me in the face is my mother.
Fair enough.
Right? No, I don't want to
My mom's not violent.
Yeah, yes, your mother's so nice. Very cool. Listen, lots in the world of mixed martial arts to discuss.
Really?
Yeah, you think? One of the big things yesterday was Nate Diaz and his tweet ripping into Dana White, calling him, we'll just say an expletive, or Fucker.
A few expletives.
Yeah, he said, he never offered me anything. And the one fight, or actually the one fight he did offer me, I laughed at. So what do you make of all this?
Well, if we're going to talk about adages, it's the idea that there's his side, and somewhere in the middle is the truth. I think that obviously both people are going to be posturing themselves in a certain direction. You got to just think back of what happened with Georges St. Pierre, where, you know, Dana White was saying he's never going to come back. He's never going to come back. And George said, I want to come back. But obviously there was something in the middle. I think the same thing happens. We're creatures, and we want to basically, especially in this sphere of public opinion, in many ways, both are trying to just lobby a situation.
Do you think he's going to fight anytime soon? And if so, who do you think they potentially may have offered him?
I would have loved to see him versus Eddie Alvarez. That would have been a great fight. I think it would have been beneficial for Nate completely. I think the distance, and is it Nate that's the southpaw, or is it Nick? I can't remember. I think both. Maybe you might be right with both.
Yeah.
I think you might be right with both. Either way, obviously Eddie has shown that he's had difficult to get off with a southpaw. So in the longer person, you got to look at just kind of like what Cerrone did with what's his face, Cerrone, and then obviously McGregor. Like, again, he has issues with taller guys. He's a small guy. For the 155 division. So I think, again, Nate is his own, the master of his own ship, but and clearly the example works because he was on a boat before he got picked to fight McGregor. But the point being, I think that if it was Eddie Alvarez, he missed an opportunity. But again, I can't speak for him.
I really like the Tony Ferguson fight, to be honest with you, not because of the rankings, because it doesn't really make sense for the rankings, but the fact that Tony Ferguson called him out, and we all know Nate Diaz won't back down, but the payday that Nate would probably be looking for, because now he's got a taste of that McGregor payday,
for sure.
And he wants big money, and I don't know if the UFC is willing to bend on whatever he may have signed in his original contract, other than the clause that he probably was able to renegotiate for the Diaz fight, or was it just pay-per-view numbers that gave him that kind of money? I mean, apparently he made a lot, like he made like 7 figures in that fight, apparently, but I like that Tony Ferguson fight.
No, I will definitely agree, and it's not apparently. He definitely made $2 million to show, and if he added the pay-per-views, he could have probably get on the back end, if he gets anywhere between $1 to $5 on every pay-per-view, and there's 5 million a million pay-per-views, that's nearly $5 million. So he could be sitting on anywhere. Let's say if they only gave him $2 for that, he got 1.6. So that's 2.6, or no, by times 2 would be $3.2 million on top of the $2 million. So he's sitting on $5 million. Obviously, that's gross, not net, and there's taxes and there's people he had to pay out for. But even if he pays out $1 million and a half, so he's looking at $4 million that he's sitting on, and that's US dollars.
Yeah, much nicer when you and I get paid US dollars. I know when I do some of the gigs, some of my play-by-play gigs, and they pay me in US, and they're like, this is fair, Joe, and I'm like, oh, you have no idea how fair this is. This is, I'm okay with this.
Yep.
Right? So we'll move off the Nate Diaz tip and move on to some other stuff. Bellator 180 will be a pay-per-view. It's going to be headlined by Chael Sonnen versus Wanderlei Silva. I want to talk about that for a second. The co-main event will be Fedor Emelianenko and Matt Mitrione. And there's also Ryan Bader, who tweeted out to light heavyweight champion Phil Davis, hey, man, do you want to do this? And Phil said, yeah. And they're like, Bellator, put this together. I think that'd be a great third fight for that pay-per-view. But we'll talk about the headline. First of all, the Bellator in general, the pay-per-view, it's not going to sell like a UFC pay-per-view, but when you have those 4 names, if not 6 names, this thing can sell pretty well.
Yes, but I would argue the top part of it. I think Phil and Bader are a much better headliner than Wendy versus Chael. Chael's coming off an embarrassing loss. He is also fighting a man that hasn't fought for 3 years, and like obviously I tweeted out, strike while the iron's cold and 3 years old. And yeah, so I understand it. I don't understand the pay-per-view, to be completely honest. I think they have a great opportunity being the on-TV model. They get 2 million people to watch fucking Ken Shamrock versus Royce Gracie. Like, that's great. Like, obviously I don't know the structure, and there's obviously a lot of back end, but they've tried this before and it flopped. So I don't understand the idea of pay-per-view, but there are a couple of names in there that are legit. Let's hope the card stays, because we're talking about two people that were supposed to fight at the top of it, and the co-main event, 2 people that were supposed to fight. I still think Phil, because Phil's the champion, right?
Yeah, so Phil's the champ.
I don't know why the champ, the only champion among those 3 bouts, why wouldn't that be on the fucking top? I understand. Like, if the whole purpose is Wandy versus Shell, you make that the co-main event, and they just talk as much shit as they were, and they're on the same tours because they're just as important. Co-main event is that's silver on the totem pole. I just don't understand why you wouldn't put the champions on top of the card.
Yeah, here's the devil's advocate version of that conversation, because I was having it with a couple of friends of mine as well. The reason why I think Chael Sonnen and Wanderlei Silva will be at the top of that card, followed by Fedor Emelianenko, Matt Mitrione, and then the potential of Bader and Davis being added to the card is, you and I, for example, we walk the streets of Toronto or walk the streets of Montreal, and we start asking people, do you know who Phil Davis is? They may not say, I don't know, it sounds, no, I don't know. Is he a hockey player, basketball player? No, he's not. You know who Ryan Bader is? Maybe not. But if you ask who Chael Sonnen is, or Wanderlei Silva is, or Fedor Emelianenko, you might get some more responses. So they'll use those cachet of those names to sell the pay-per-view, and the byproduct of that is having Phil Davis potentially on the card, as well as Ryan Bader, to sell them and to really get them some eyeballs as well before the big guys fight.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong at all. Again, to the point that I was trying to make at the beginning with the wide pay-per-views, people will still watch Ken Shamrock versus Royce Gracie because of that alone. So you're not wrong at all.
Yeah, and that's the name cachet that I was talking last week. You and I were talking about this Legends League of Vitor Belfort, and Sean Pearson had a funny comment saying that's nice. It's called Bellator, right? He's right. I mean, it's
it's clearly obvious what it is. Yeah.
No shot to Bellator, but that's basically what Vitor was trying to say, although he was trying to make it, not 5-minute rounds, 3-minute rounds and stuff like that. I totally get that. But my concern is this, just for now, Chael Sonnen versus Wanderlei Silva. Wanderlei was supposed to fight overseas. Okay, he was supposed to fight in Japan, and that fight never happened. And it seems, I don't know if Wanderlei has some serious injury issues. People can say he's
Mexican supplements.
Okay, so with that being said, if that's the case, if people think, quote unquote, you say Mexican supplements, if that's the case, is Bellator risking way too much in having Wanderlei Silva headlining a pay-per-view card?
No, I just think it was just not enough Mexican supplements to fight someone like Krokop. That's a big man. But when you see the shell of a human you would fight in Bellator, called Chael Sonnen, why the fuck would you not do that? Sorry for my French.
Oh, you're in Montreal.
Exactly. Or in Rome.
Yes. It's funny you mentioned that, and I didn't know this, Mexican supplements. I was in Mexico 2 weeks ago, and I didn't know, and I legit had no idea that you could literally walk into a grocery store, or not, excuse me, a pharmacy, and there's apparently HGH, there's apparently Androsten, there's apparently whatever you need, and you just buy it.
That's why all stereotypes have, not all stereotypes, but many stereotypes, there's a truth to it in some regard, for better or worse. But what I was going to say is that's also the aspect of, they have those in Brazil as well. They have those, there's a lot of places where it's easier to get steroids than it is good food.
I'm pleading so much ignorance on this conversation. I legit, Elias, had friends of mine, none of them in the MMA industry, all in the fitness industry, or just guys that are just that work out, and they were sending me messages on WhatsApp. Hey, dude, heard you're in Mexico. I'm like, yeah, I'm here with the family, blah, blah, blah. Any chance you can, and then listing stuff, and I'm like, No.
No.
I'm not going to the pharmacy to buy that stuff and bring it over. Oh, don't worry, you can do it this way. And they're giving me like ways of bringing it up. I'm like, are you guys insane?
Same.
I can't.
Yeah.
Like they're like, no, don't worry, you can buy it there, no problem. I said, okay, I don't need it, but I'm not bringing it home. Like, oh my God.
This is all of a sudden, Mr. Joe, we're gonna have to ask you to bend over on the way back from customs.
Right? Like, go to Mexico yourself if it's that easy, man. Like, oh my God, it's crazy.
No, but that's where it comes from. It's the idea that they don't have the same rules and regulations on some aspects. But again, if we're gonna be an adult about the conversation, if you're not competing in sport, they work. They work. People use them for a fucking reason. And when I'm older, because of the fact that what I've done to my body, I'm definitely going to be consulting with my doctor and figuring out what Mexican supplements are right for me. No, but like in seriousness, like they actually work. That's why people use them. And that's obviously something that you're doing to bend the rules, because what we want in sport is the truest form of competition, and that's why they're not used. Then you can get into the conversation of, well, isn't anything but what you eat cheating, or aren't supplements, not even Mexican supplements, cheating? Because, like, again, how many people are able to buy protein because it's expensive, or glycosamine, or glycerin, like this, that, and the other? Like, you know what I mean? Like, how many people are, have caffeine? Like, there's all this. That's where the conversation becomes a little bit, larger than the original issue. But yeah, man, they are very prevalent there. You can also get them in Cuba. You can also get them in many other places down south.
You've been to Thailand. Is it the same thing out there?
Oh yeah, buddy. Thailand for sure. Even there, they give you a little, the nuclear option, because most people are visiting, so they give you you can get a little penicillin pack on the way out.
Oh my God.
Vegas on steroids.
Yeah,
and then there are actual steroids. Even their Red Bull, it's like M160. They used to have methamphetamines in it. Like, you can just be like that's where Red Bull comes from. Like, that they obviously watered it down. But like, you can get, like, essentially, like, they have signs that say, foreigners, don't try this, because you're not used to it. But it's essentially methamphetamines. Like, they're the older versions.
You could, ladies and gentlemen, you can excuse my perma-smile at the moment, because I am in this WTF moment. Like, what? This just happened? Like, am I that sheltered in my little office here, just north of Toronto? And I travel the world. It's just, listen, I'm as clean as you get. My drug of choice, if you ever tested me for anything, I would fail miserably, okay? Because that's my drug of choice. Do I take supplements? Yeah, I've got protein powder here. I've got another big jug over there. Other than that, I take what? Omega-369. I take a multivitamin. I take glucosamine chondroitin sulfate. Take that stuff just for my joints, because I'm getting older. But I'll tell you this. I've had former UFC fighters during that TRT era that literally came to me and said, you need to try this. You would absolutely love this, because you do train, you do like your weights, you do like working out. You start taking this stuff here, go see your doctor, and you will feel like you're 20 years old again. And I'll never forget when Rampage Jackson came out in a post-fight interview, which I'm sure he should have never opened his mouth, and he said that he was on TRT, and I think it may have come from at the time the UFC's doctor that recommended it, and he said, I feel like I'm 20 years old again, 25 years old, and I'm just doing crazy stuff with weights and at the gym. And I'm like, dude, you're on roids. You're
testosterone.
Yeah.
But with that, it's all about the recovery. So that's the whole purpose of it, right? So it's not even necessarily it makes you larger, but to your point, what it does is it reactivates the pituitary gland, which is essentially what made you have puberty in the first place. So that's why you started getting hair in places that you wouldn't. So maybe there's a double aspect for you, Joe.
I'm good being follically challenged. I'm happy with my hair like this. This is what I'm known for. I mean, do you really want to see me with hair?
No, I just want to see you hit puberty. No,
I'm okay with that.
But what's it called? Yeah, no, there's a reason why people use it. Plain and simple.
Yeah, no, it's understandable. That co-main event will feature Fedor and Mitrione. Obviously, the last time they were supposed to compete, Mitrione had that issue with the kidney stone. Horrible timing. It happens right then and there before the fight is to take place. Do you think there's any concern that Bellator should have that co-main event may fall apart?
Yes, I think because it's a heavyweight, you get another heavyweight on the side to be ready. I think like you tell like I don't know whoever the fuck's on their roster to basically get your shit together. You're fighting. That's one of the things that we saw in the blueprints of some of the leaked stuff about the UFC that they're starting to, in certain championship fights, basically let two different people know, a couple people know, a couple of, option B, option C, which makes total sense. We're product. And if one product's faulty, shove it in another one. And who wouldn't want to jump at the opportunity to fight Fedor? I think this is a really bad matchup for Fedor just because of the size. I obviously Mitrione. Actually, Mitrione is a much more athletic, obviously heavyweight. He's able, like he bounces on his feet. I see a lot of similarities between Mitrione and myself, and the idea that we're very awkward. We're large individuals. Like I'm large for my weight class. He has a big bone structure. He's a taller heavyweight. Like he's so much taller than Fedor. And I think someone like that, like for instance, Big Nog was an issue because of their just size, and I think that's kind of the same thing. I don't have no idea why Fedor is not a light heavyweight. Plain and simple. Like he's 220 pounds, 230 pounds. Like shit. Come on, like show a little sacrifice in regards to it. And I know he's the GOAT, one of the GOATs of all time, but I think in many ways his issue is not being a light heavyweight.
Well, that was the argument forever with Fedor, right? Just go fight at 205. But because heavyweight, because he had the speed and the power, and he was able to deal. Yes, yeah, back in the day, yeah. But he can. I don't know if he can make 205 right now. But again, and should he really be competing? I don't know. That's another.
That's also a valid point. That you're not wrong. Once again, Joe, not wrong.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much. I mean, the other thing about Bellator is Lorenz Larkin has officially signed over there. Ryan Bader has officially signed over there. Word out with Ryan Bader's contract. I want to get your thoughts on this because obviously you're under contract with the UFC, but the contract structure.
No, I'm kidding.
The contract structure is you get a show, you get your show money, and you get your win money. Apparently, Bader's contract is a newer type of contract where he gets a flat fee, and if he finishes, he gets a bonus.
I like that.
You like that?
Yeah, that's great. That's great. That's the same incentive aspect, but it's also a guarantee that is not half your money. That's totally perfect. I love that.
So this is
like again. Sorry to interrupt. But like even again, my last two fights I had a decision, so I wouldn't even have gotten that. I just think as someone that has lost once and only once, it was my only bad day at work, and even that was a close decision against someone that was on a 5-fight win streak, but or eventually went on to go a 5-fight win streak and knocked everyone else out, and it was just really higher wardrobe malfunction. But I digress. The point being. Only lost once. I think that's a much better aspect. I think that is a progressive act on the UFC's part if they were to do that. And I think that's a great thing.
So you bring up a good point, though, and this is why back in the day I used to talk about structured contracts. There was a time I was going to get back into mixed martial arts promoting, and I had an idea of that sort of very nature, where every fighter was to get a flat fee, and then you would get bonuses based on whether you finish a fight and all that stuff. There, if you win a decision, you get X amount. So I would love to see contracts structured in a nature where this is what you're guaranteed to show up. This is paid when you show up. Now, you win by decision, you get this much. You win by you finish your opponent, you get that much.
Yep.
If you lose a decision, I don't know if you should get anything, but the fact is you fought for 15 or 25 minutes. Maybe you should be rewarded for that, but it all depends. Again, was it
fight of the night kind of thing aspect? Yeah, like again, if it was an exciting fight, I think there's a spectrum. Like not all fights are equal, right? Like there's a difference between a Stephan Bonner versus Forrest Griffin and there's difference between a lot of X amounts of boring decisions. You know what I mean? So like, I understand it. Makes sense. I'm all for fighters getting more money. I'm biased.
Course. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Now, Lorenz Larkin. Sorry, go ahead.
Not even necessarily more money, just the idea that what they deserve. You fought the whole fight. You should get paid a whole check.
Yeah, and that's. But then I could hear promoters saying, "Well, that's your show money."
Yes, but the idea being that there's a more incentive on top.
Yeah, and I had this conversation with Joe Warren over in Japan over the holidays, the Christmas holidays, or the holiday season, and he's like, I just wish I knew what I was going to get paid. I wish I knew going in there what I was going to get paid every time I fought, and it wasn't as risky. And I thought to myself, well, that's technically your show money, but I understand what you're saying, a flat fee. If I know I'm guaranteed, like he was making really good money, if I'm guaranteed hypothetically 6 figures, then I know I'm going to fight for 6 figures. But if I'm guaranteed half of that with the potential to make 6 figures, like 50 and 50, you know, it's you know, I'm risking a lot now. Like now that I know I'm ahead in the first round, I want to be careful, right?
Exactly.
That's the thing. But if I know I'm going to get this much here, and that's all I'm getting unless I finish, then I'll fight.
100%. I 100% agree. I think that's more incentive on top of that. And then you can have more people that are, you know, full-time fighters.
Yeah, very true. Very true. Lorenz Larkin made a comment recently that obviously he signed now with Bellator as well. And he said it wasn't just about the money, or it wasn't just about the money. It was more or less wanting to work with a promoter that actually gives a quote unquote expletive about him. And I was like, I get that. I understand that, but I can also see it, you know, devil's advocate. That's what I do here. Devil's advocate from the UFC's perspective. When you have a roster of so many fighters, you can only do so much. You can't give everybody love at the same time all the time. So I understand where Lorenz is coming from. I understand potentially where the UFC is coming from. It's got the one thing I love about Titan FC, where I work, or one of the places I do play-by-play, is it's fans, fighters first. And you got to see how Lex McMahon treats these fighters. He treats these guys and girls like absolute gold, and whatever he can do to make things easy for them, he will, but he expects that in return. Don't give me any headaches.
Yep.
Okay? Do whatever I can to make your travel, your trip, your money, whatever, as best I can. But let's be honest here. In my opinion, it'd be like, don't be, you know, choose my words carefully. It's almost like we're on this expletive tip today. Don't be a, you know, what people would say, bitch. Just do your thing, right? So I get it, but from Lorenz Larkin's perspective, he's happy now that he's in Bellator. He's going to be at the next show with King Mo taking on Rampage Jackson, just so we can find out when he's fighting next. What do you make of all this?
Well, I'm happy for him. That's all. I've met him. I've trained with him. He's a good dude. I think you know, options are the best thing. More options, the better. I think competition is also a very important thing as well. So again, the 2 weight classes that Bellator has really injected great talent in, welterweight and light heavyweight. So
welterweight's sick.
I know, exactly. So they they arguably have just as good of a welterweight and light heavyweight division. Like obviously, no one's going to be like, obviously no one compares to Jones and DC, and not many compared to someone like Wonderboy and Woodley and even like Lawler when they come back. But at the same time, they're pretty damn close. I think Bellator has a better leading up to top 5 light heavyweight division. I think it's like, you know, top 5 to 6. I think, you know, from 12 to 6, with the exception of Misha. I think they're better in Bellator. And then you know, there's 3 guys that are better than Bellator in regards to light heavyweight, in regards to obviously DC, Anthony Johnson, and then Jon Jones, and I would throw in Misha Serganov. Like, it's like Shogun. Like, come on, what's called Phil Davis is he's a champion. So is now Bader. Bader's in a better position, I think, than someone like Shogun. I think there's a lot of name recognition in the light heavyweight division. It's one of the older ones, just like heavyweight is. But with that being said, essentially, Bellator's heavyweight division is not really real. You know what I mean? They have like 4 guys, 4 heavyweights.
Unfortunately, that rarely fight.
Yeah. Yep. I'll drink to that.
In terms of the light heavyweight division, though, you take a look at what happened with the UFC over in London. I want to ask you real quick, and it could just be me because I hate when I see this stuff here. I shouldn't say hate; it just annoys me. Jimmy Manuwa takes on Corey Anderson, and the call some people make is that it's a one-punch knockout. Well, no,
there were many punches. Yeah, there were punches before that. No, I understand. It's the walkaway. It's at least a walkaway. A walk away. Like he knocked him out, walked away. It's a la Mark Hunt, right? Like Mark Hunt is a one-punch knockout. He hit him before that, and he had him wobbled. Like there was.
That's what I'm saying. It's not a one-punch knockout. And every time I hear it, I'm like, the guy threw 17 punches. It ended early, but he threw like 17 punches to lead up to that situation where he could throw that left hook.
And walk off. I will agree with you. Joe's not wrong. Joe's not wrong. Today's episode titled "Joe Not Wrong." Joe's not wrong.
It's funny because the owner of the site here and some of the guys, the managing editor at the site here, Fightful.com, want to come out with some T-shirts and they want a Showdown Joe shirt.
Joe's not wrong.
Joe's not wrong.
Joe's not wrong.
Oh my God, how narcissistic would I be walking around with a shirt?
As long as other people wear it, other people wear it would be the best. No, I still think you should. On those days that you really just want to tell people to go fuck themselves, Joe's not wrong. You don't have to say it.
Fightful, MMA.com. Joe's not wrong.
Just tap the shirt.
The real dilemma with that, Elias Theodorou, is if I could convince my wife.
That's what I was
wear that shirt.
Well, or you piss her off too every time she tells you to do something.
Do you know how fast she would take that shirt, turn it into a mop, and to clean the floor?
Well, she'd mop you, then mop you with the floor.
Right? Here, Joe, go clean the rims on your truck with the shirt. Thanks, Thanks, honey. I appreciate it. Jimmy Manuwa takes out Corey Anderson. We talked about it beforehand. When Jimmy Manuwa decides that he wants to hurt people, going to hurt people, and he did that against Corey Anderson, who was all class afterwards. He understands that, hey, you know what? You don't win them all. You win some, you lose some. But Jimmy took some shots at Jon Jones. I was like, I want to see that fight now.
Shots fired. Yeah, no, definitely shots fired. Well, we'll see when he comes back. He comes back to like what, July, August, September? Who the fuck knows? See, I just need a couple of drinks, and I'm pulling a Pearson.
Oh, Pearson's on fire, and Pearson doesn't drink.
I know.
Just tease off.
Well, that's where he and I differ. But the point being, basically, no, like all the power to him. Jones is not obviously, like there's still a dilemma with Jon Jones, and he was also saying he didn't really want to fight Jon Jones. Now he's obviously said Jones will fight because, of course, like it's Jones, or it's Jones. But either way, I digress. Now the point I'm trying to say, we're talking about the issue of rebooking Wanderlei versus Chael or Fedor versus Matt Mitrione. Will it happen? Jones has had a couple of issues. When I say a couple, I'm being very, 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 very nice about it. Honestly, the only person that can beat Jon Jones is Jon Jones. That's it. That's my feeling. He's my favorite fighter. Like, you can obviously add the aspect of his anatomy. He is a super freak. He's sandwiched in between two athlete brothers who they've been probably just alpha mailing each other since they're born. Like he's a professional. He's except for Matt Hamill, the goat of all goats, who is the only person to beat Jon Jones. Default. But what I was gonna say is Jon Jones is undefeated, and the only person he's lost to is himself. Like his anatomy is amazing. He has like 84-inch reach. This is just, for lack of a better word, ridiculous. And he's so game because he's been sandwiched in between two freaking alpha males. He's the underachiever in his family. Like the best fighter to ever come in mixed martial arts is the underachiever in his family in regards to athletics. Like that's crazy. But like I honestly, like I've had heart to hearts with him. Like when I was what do you call it? At the Ultimate Fighter House, and then once or twice at a club in Toronto when he didn't remember they ever happened. But but then again, I've seen him many different times across, and like his mental focus before this last incident was tremendous, and he has that aura. Like again, Anderson Silva was more dominant in regards to that aura because of just the, you know, he has a dad body. He's had a dad body forever. Like Anderson Silva is a normal looking human. Yeah. Jones is a super athlete, and especially when like the latter part when he was lifting and he's now lifting and actually putting in a strength and conditioning routine, he looks imposing. Like he is just, but no. I think there's also an issue to be said where when Jones returns, and also if Jones returns.
I think he'll return. It's just a matter of trying to figure it all out, right?
Will he?
I think so.
Of course, he has to. I want to. I'm his biggest cheerleader. I will literally be a ring girl for his fight. Like that's how pumped I am about him. But like, I'm half kidding. Obviously, of course he's gonna fight. But he's fought once in like 3 years.
Yeah, but that's the problem with Jon. It's his own.
That's what I was trying to say. That's what I'm saying. The only person that can beat Jon Jones is Jon Jones.
Elias is not wrong.
We both have matching shirts.
But the thing is, though, it's his own demise. Now I'm thinking Jimmy Manoa, aka what I used to be pretty good at, reverse psychology. I think he's just reverse psychologying his way into a Jon Jones fight.
For sure. Interesting. Yep. I think there's some validity to it. Either way he wins, because either he sets himself up with a fight with Jones, and then the real issue is actually winning. Or he insults him and he just gets to take a little bit of his name. You know what I mean? Like he gets to talk shit and then go fight someone else. And if he fights someone else and smashes him, like, yeah, Jon Jones, I don't trust him, or whatever the case. Like again, he was talking about steroids. He's talking about this. He's talking about that. Which there's a real issue with Jones. Like again, I actually believe him in he's a savage. Like he is like me. He suffers from it's a clear example of suffering from impulse control. Whether it's alcohol, whether it's women, whether it's drugs, whether it's fighting, it's all impulse control. So he has one last vice left into him, just swinging dick like a savage. So the idiot was buying gas station fucking dick pills. America is not like Canada. It's the Wild West when it comes to any type of supplements. Like, I don't know how, like, there's two things I don't understand with America in regards to professional athletes. One, how you can be a professional fighter in the first place. Like, I've been to different events where someone broke his jaw and he has to go back to the States. Like, oh my God, the x-ray is going to be $800. Like, you're fucked if you don't have insurance. Like, I don't know. I don't understand how someone becomes a professional fighter in America unless you have health insurance. It's the most fucked up thing. And it makes me appreciate how, again, America Light, aka Canada, is the best country in the world. Plain and simple.
And what's the second thing?
Sorry. How they become why they become fighters because of health insurance? Shit. I went on a tangent on that and I rest my laurels. Damn it.
It's okay. If it comes back, just cut me off and bring it up. But the one thing that I always again, it's us being Canadian, and the Americans sometimes will basically say, "Oh, it's all kid. They're all joking around because of South Park, but you're socialist country and blah blah." But I'm kind of like, dude, I'm. People have no idea unless you know me and you've known me for the 20 years or so. I'm the most injury-prone dummy. The only reason why I never decided to fight professional in the late 90s wasn't necessarily because of the money. It was because of the money, and I had a good job at the time, but I wanted to fight. I could not go through a full training camp without breaking an ankle, busting an elbow, having my elbow capsule popped out, not tapping out to a Kimura, damaging both shoulders, heel hook that destroyed my left leg. I wasn't able to, but I could go to a hospital anytime and say, yeah, I screwed up. I need stitches. I busted my leg. I need an air cast, blah, blah. No issues whatsoever. And I hear that, sometimes I don't know the whole system in the States, how it works. I'm going to plead ignorance on that. But my worst fear is getting hurt while I'm in the States and having to show up to a hospital and being handed a bill for $80,000.
A simple pregnancy can cost up to $35,000. Go having birth is $35,000 without health insurance. $35,000 to deliver a kid if you do not have health insurance.
You know what? I don't know what to say to that.
Like, again, that's a whole different discussion in the idea of like America in general, because like, again, they talk about being this very Christian country, but like this atheist will tell you, you know, Jesus, he probably wouldn't be cool with that. So it's a confusing situation in general. No, I think what I was basically trying to say, like obviously the health insurance thing, and then also the supplement aspect, why you wouldn't, that's what it was, how you would not do your due diligence. Like supplements, for whatever reason, do not follow under the Food and Drug Administration. So they are literally the Wild West. And like my sponsor, shameless plug, HPN, High Performance Nutrition, they are safe for sport. What that basically means is you allow an audit of your supplements at any point. We'll go in and take like a batch of, 1,000. They'll take a batch of, whatever, 1% of it, and they will do testing of it. Because there's examples. Like you can look at many different examples on the internet where, like, one of my favorite ones where this company, they made not old people, but elderly supplements for like, 50 plus kind of thing. And then a whole batch of them, people started they started turning yellow. Their livers started failing because that same company did steroids before that, and they didn't clean the actual vessels properly. So all these elderly people are just getting jaundice and what's called liver failure because they're taking their vitamins. America is the worst place to get supplements from them unless they allow certain audits. Like, again, HPN, this is not even the shameless plug. This is what everyone should be, expecting of their supplements. Whether, again, something like HPN that allows the audit, but I know the actual culture of the company. I know they are great people that only want to better people. They're not doing anything on like everything's on the up and up rather than some shady shit that's on the side. But that's the issue that you deal with in America. I just did my new whereabouts for USADA. And there's a whole component where now, before they used to say, you got to do your due diligence. Now they really say you got to do your due diligence because a whole bunch of people were getting popped in America for tainted supplements, like something like a protein powder.
Well, George Sullivan recently came out, a UFC fighter who was tested positive, and his statement was this. So the worst part about last year's suspension was the thing I was suspended for was not on the bottle label. It was not on the ingredients. So when they tested a supplement I was on, it tested positive for unlabeled residue of something which I can't say because we're going to be in court about it. So in essence, he was taking a supplement that didn't have anything illegal in there. And the next thing you know, he gets popped and he's like, this is what I took. Look at the label, nothing there. They test the supplement. There it is.
America. So let me dig in kind of deeper into that. Proprietary blend. That means there's potentially not more than 1% of anything else that could possibly be in there. That's them basically wiping their hands clean of whatever. That's a technical mumbo jumbo, some bullshit, where proprietary blend essentially just means proprietary blend basically means that there is, within the threshold, there's no more than 1%, or there's no more than 5%, or there's nothing by on purpose, purposefully there. And that's kind of legal mumbo jumbo. Don't do anything that doesn't do a BCE, G, or I can't remember what it is. Let me show you. 1 second. You keep talking.
All right. Yeah, no, I totally get it. And apologies, ladies and gentlemen, because we definitely do want to get to some I want to get to the Gunnar Nelson versus Alain Jobin fight with Elias Theodorou. I also want to touch on very quickly UFC 210 with Daniel Cormier taking on Anthony Rumble Johnson, of course. And maybe we'll talk also about Chris Weidman very quickly taking on Gegard Mousasi. A lot of people are leaning over to Mousasi and almost are kind of not laughing at Chris Weidman, but are saying whatever. But we're on this supplement kick here. We're on this steroid kick. I don't know how we turned into this, but this is what happens when you have a good conversation. And Elias, you've got an example here?
Yeah. So again, my sponsor, shameless plug, quasi, but it's more to the idea that what the conversation we're having. Something as simple as this, where it says safe for sport, but more importantly, one of the organization where it's certified drug-free is what's it called? BSCG, right? Like that's the American version. Something like BioSteel in Canada, they have much the same situation. It basically allows an audit. So the company BSCG or the organization will basically just randomly take a certain batch of basically X amount of supplements or of your catalog. Something like BioSteel, which is a Canadian example, they offer $1 million, if something was like of some type of issue comes up with their supplements, they offer $1 million. I don't know what the technical term would be, insurance or a reward or fine on themselves. I don't know the example, but HPN does something similar to that, and I think that's what the whole standard is. If something happens, then they basically say, "Oops, my bad."
Gotcha. I appreciate that. Thanks for that information. Obviously, people that are listening in right now live will benefit, especially those watching on the video side. Later on, those who are tuned in from the audio side, see if you can get over to YouTube or to Fightful MMA to take a look at the video side with Elias showing the different sides of the bottle. Real quick, I want to get three things off the top of your head, if you don't mind. Gunnar Nelson versus Alan Jouban. Gunnar Nelson chooses to use BJJ to finish off Jouban, who basically he had rocked. It kind of put a smile on my face. That I don't know if you know much about television or how theaters work and stuff like that. They switched. The UFC switched Gunnar Nelson with a lookalike, because then all of a sudden he did a post-fight interview and this lookalike was smiling and being happy. We all know that's not Gunnar Nelson. Gunnar Nelson doesn't smile. Gunnar Nelson is very stoic. So I thought it was really cool the UFC was able to pull off that tomfoolery, if you like.
Yes. Gunnar Nelson only has one face. I'm excited for this fight. I've trained really hard. But no, I think to the bigger point, it was very nice. Again, a very similar Damian Maia response. I didn't want to hurt anyone more. He saw the opportunity and he took it. And as a fellow pretty fighter, I respect that, no touching of the hair and face.
Right? But listen, fantastic. I mean, it just goes to show you how much BJJ and submissions are instilled into his DNA right now, because to be able to do that, the natural fighter mentality, I would say for the vast majority, is if you got a guy finish him. If you're a guy or a girl competing, you got to finish him, and he's just like, I'm going to finish him with submission. Why give him more trauma? So cool on him, and being facetious or not, I just absolutely love when Gunnar Nelson smiles and does these post-fight interviews, and he's just a nice guy, and I just thought it was fantastic how he was acting afterwards. Let's move on to UFC 210, by the way, because we're not going to have a UFC event for a good 2 or 3 weeks, taking place in Buffalo. Obviously, you take a look at the co-main event between Chris Weidman and Gegard Mousasi. I'm leaning toward Gegard in this fight. What about you?
Momentum would say yes. Obviously, I'm biased because I love Chris. I think Chris is still one of the top middleweights in the world. He just got caught the last one. I think he was winning against Yoel. But, Yoel just yoled out. You got to hope. I agree. I understand the idea of leaning towards the person that is coming off of a winning streak. You can't take away from that. But I'm still biased, and I'm still rooting for Chris.
And, of course, the main event will be a rematch, this one for the light heavyweight championship of the world. Daniel Cormier defending his title against Anthony Rumble Johnson. There are peeps that really like Anthony Rumble Johnson in this fight.
I think Anthony, again, I was talking to my buddy Dave, and we kind of basically figured it out in the sense that DC has to fight the perfect fight, whereas Rumble just needs to catch him. That's the difference. That's again, DC fought the perfect fight. On the same token, Anthony Johnson does quit fights. He's quit fights many times and given up his back, even in this fight that we're rematching. It was a rear naked choke in the 3rd round or 4th round or whatever it is. He quit that fight. That was all mental. Anthony Johnson's biggest issue will be mental. Not saying not saying he doesn't want to fight, not saying that he's a great fighter, anything. He just gives up. He has given up. He doesn't always give up. He has given up in very, very important times. The true test of grit. The case in point, we already mentioned it, the rematch. That is him giving up. He gave his back up. He did not defend. He was a turtle on his back. I think with DC, though, he has also taken a lot of damage. He comes from AKA. That is both a positive and a negative in regards to training. And yeah, my final verdict, Anthony Johnson just needs to catch him. DC needs to fight the perfect fight.
We'll touch more on that over the coming weeks as we get closer to the odds as we speak right now. Across the board on a whole whack of sites, it is even. Minus 110 for both gentlemen. So basically a pick-up fight. It's going to be very interesting. I'm wondering, before we let you go, how interesting is your next week going to be by the time we talk to you next Tuesday?
Well, it kind of throws me off. I was supposed to be training here all week, but I'm still going to make it useful. I am, I'm actually going to be hanging out with friends back in Toronto. So the next time you see me, I'll be back in Toronto. I have actually like 5 countries in the next 2 months planned. So I'll be all over the place. May, kicking off in May, June, July. I should be fighting. I'm actually going to talk to my management right after this conversation. So I should be having some news of my fight. Hopefully they don't go freaked out about the cut on my head. But again, I'll probably be fighting somewhere around July. So like July, August, and there's a rumor there's an event in September in Canada for the UFC. So there are different options. And I'm looking, again, Dan Kelly actually has a fight now with Derek Brunson. So where you at, Rashad? Where you at? Where you at?
Gotcha. I will see Rashad likely in May. I can pass the word on to him.
I'm going to probably pass the word on before that. Where you at, Rashad?
I meant personally, my bad. Okay. Yeah, absolutely. All right, man. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, we want to thank Elias. Elias, thank you very much for your time. We sincerely appreciate it, as always. Make sure you do follow The Spartan, # the main event online via social media at Elias Theodorou, of course, yours truly at Showdown Joe. Don't forget at Fightful MMA, and then FightfulMMA.com for all of your mixed martial arts news. As always, thank you to everybody who tuned in live to watch us go back and forth here, talk expletives, talk about impulse control, talk about. No, try it again,
buddy. Oh.
As he almost strangles himself with the headphone cords. I absolutely love it. Yes. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much. And for those, like I said, tuned in live, we really appreciate it. To those later on iTunes and on Stitcher, we thank you as well. But for now, don't forget, tomorrow evening, 9 p.m., you must have your earmuffs on, because it'll be Sean Pearson, sober, probably losing his marbles on some stuff, because there's going to be some stuff here that I'm going to throw his way that's probably going to set him off, which is exactly what we want. But Sean, good guy, colorful personality. He joins me tomorrow evening at 9 p.m. Eastern. For now, we bid you all a fond adieu, and like I always say, ciao for now.
Hi, Mom.